If you're a gardener, you will know that this is a plant of broccoli, and specifically it's a Romanesco broccoli. And we have been purposely leaving it because I wanted to make this dish. It's a Calabria dish, but we've been Calabrian dish, but we've been eating the old shoot. And today I'm going to be removing the entire plant so that I can cook it. And I'm quite excited because this is a very warming dish. And look, it's sprouted, so you can see that it's different. You can of course also use normal broccoli, but I will be cooking this with some linguine, potatoes, a bit of olive oil, garlic and chili powder. So I'll take it inside and I'll be also cooking the leaves, and I'll show you what a delicious meal this can make. I'll see you indoors.
You don't want to mention the fact that it should have been eaten about a month ago when it was a nice tight floret head, because you kept saying, let's wait, we're going to need to make a recipe with this. I need to make a recipe with this. And then it's gone completely mad, look. It's a bit over, but there we are.
That's not mad. That is purposely left here so that I can make this dish. So it's all strategic. I just finished working and I was showing a colleague of mine, James. Hi, James. What I'm about to cook. And I was holding the broccoli in my hand, and he was amazed that I'm going to cook the whole thing, thinking that obviously there's a lot in there. But these are very typical recipes of southern Italy, and you will never find a recipe like this in a restaurant. So if you're lucky enough to visit southern Italy and maybe visit a family, you are likely, if you ask, they cook you something like this. I mentioned earlier that I will be also cooking the leaves. And by the way, you do not have to use broccoli either. You can use, if you like, cauliflower. And if you do use cauliflowers, do ensure that you also use the leaves. So the first job is to remove all of the edible parts. So stems come off, and you can also use the little tender stems broccoli you can buy in supermarket. I don't remember what it's called, but I'm sure you know what I mean. And I will be using the trunk, but let's deal with the stems first. If you get hold of something like this, if you're using a paring knife, it's ideal for jobs like this. You can see that you can get in very, very easily. There we go, that's done. Now let's see what we got here. I can see that the top is quite tender, but as I go further down, it's a little bit rigid and tough. So I'm going to use a bread knife, as it is really tough, to see what it looks like first. Gosh, even with the bread knife, it's quite tough. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's okay actually, so maybe this can go in the bin. And using my trusted bread knife, I'll remove the thicker layer of the peel. I have to be honest, there is something quite nice about the smell of fresh broccoli. Let's have a look to see what it's like. Perfect. I will use this. I'll just cut leaves into smaller pieces, and I'll wash everything and I'll be right back. Calabria, which is the last region, the bottom of Italy, the very, very foot at the bottom. It's very, very close to Sicily, literally. If you were to stand in Reggio Calabria, you'll be able to see the coast of Sicily, I don't know, 3-4 miles, very, very close. But what always amazes me is that the different type of food they cook over there is substantially spicier to what you get in Sicily. And Calabria is well renowned for spicy food. And this is going to be on the spicy area in terms of recipe, but it's very, very simple. I've got here a potato. I've just peeled it. I'm going to cut it in half, then I'll cut it in little pieces like this. I've got a pot of boiling water here. I'm going to add some salt first, and I'll place my potatoes inside them, and about 7 minutes to give them a head start. Add some olive oil in a frying pan, couple of cloves of garlic. I'll give them a gentle crush, just enough to crack them, and I will add them to the oil, and I will wait about a minute or so until they start sizzling. And here comes the Calabrian touch. This is chili powder, hot, so I'm only going to use one level teaspoon, just like this. Most probably if I was in Calabria they would double it, but Julie's tolerance to hot food is very low, so I think one is enough. And I'll just mix with the oil and make sure that it starts combining with the flavour from the garlic. Keep the temperature medium, you don't want this to burn of course, but I'm going to add half a ladle of my cooking water over here. And everything has combined together for a couple of minutes and I can turn this off for the time being. In the meantime I'll get my vegetables ready. So here's my trunk which I've chopped into little manageable pieces and I can go in. Now with the broccoli here, the leaves can go straight in. I chop them in half anyway, so they will cook and they will shrink considerably. Here with the stems, because this is an overgrown plant and sprouted, I need to be slightly careful that I do not end up with too many tough parts. So the top is perfectly okay, so I'm going to just remove it and put it in, but the bottom I'm going to remove some of the skin where it can be a little bit tough, and then I can add that also like this. So this one will not be cooking very nicely, so I'll take it off, and I'll do the same with all of it. This is fine, so it can just go in. So I'll clean it up and I'll put it in. But of course if you were to buy tender broccoli from the supermarket, you don't need to do this because they're just as good to go, and then you can just pop them in immediately. And that is the last of my broccoli. I'll make sure that this reaches the boil once again, and I'll give it 5 minutes before I add some pasta. Perfect, there we go. I'm cooking for 2 people by the way, so clearly there is far more here than what I need. And I did mention strategies earlier. So my strategy is to move some of the more tender parts of my broccoli here with my chili and olive oil, and then I will keep the rest for tomorrow, where I'm going to make a minestrone, and I will be adding cauliflower, carrots, potatoes and so on, but I've got an excellent base. So I'll just go and pick all of the tender parts first. There we go. And of course also the potatoes, so I can move them across with my tender broccoli stems. And by the way, here are my trunks. I think I put a couple in as I really like them, especially when they're raw, but also when they're cooked. And as I mentioned, I'll move the rest out so that I've got space to cook my pasta. It's pretty good. So remember, do not throw the water away, as if you are replicating this recipe and you want to make minestrone, you can use the water for your minestrone tomorrow. Linguine, in they go. And I'll cook these until they are 1 minute before they are al dente. So read the packaging where your pasta come in, and then make sure that you cook them 1 minute less. In the meantime, I'll move over here and I'll turn this back on again. Cannellini beans, assuming I can open them. They are perfect with this dish because they add smoothness and they are lovely and velvety. And I'm going to add them, water included. There we go. And of course, mix everything together now. If you're not very keen on garlic, by the way, here I can see one of the cloves. This is when you might want to remove it. I'm going to leave mine. I like it, but you remove if you want. I find myself munching on them. They are really nice. They're a little bit more bitter than normal broccoli, but my mum would have cooked these just like I did, boiled with a little salt, then added some olive oil and some lemon and just as a meal, and I used to love it. Anyway, pasta is done.
Just an observation, you know that it's a type of cauliflower, not a type of broccoli.
What is?
Yeah.
This is broccoli.
Now what you picked in the garden is a cauliflower.
No, it's broccoli.
It's a cauliflower.
The pasta has finished cooking, so I can now move it across over here. You haven't had Julie's debate with me. She's behind the camera now. She just said to me, "You do realize this isn't broccoli, it's cauliflower?" I said, "Oh, it's broccoli." Anyway, I say it's broccoli, she says cauliflower, because Romanesco apparently is cauliflower. I'm going to ask you, what do you think it is? Do you think it's broccoli or do you think it's cauliflower?
I sort of thought about it, and it's a type of cauliflower, but I will grant you, by the time it's ended up like this, a little bit over, it is very like the
It tastes very much like broccoli to me. Anyway, so here is my pasta. And as I mentioned before, this can go back in, ready for tomorrow for my minestrone. Now over here, I need to finish cooking my pasta as it is just before al dente. So I'll turn the temperature up and I'll mix it together. There's quite a lot here, most probably a lot more than 2 people can eat. But I only cooked 180 grams of pasta because I knew that there was going to be quite a bit of mass from the broccoli, not the cauliflower. But anyway, doesn't really matter. And I'll just mix it for a good minute until everything is combined, and the cannellini beans obviously will blend beautifully with everything else, also giving it that smoothness feel about the whole thing. Julie came in the kitchen earlier and she said, "Oh, I thought you were cooking pizza," because of the smell of the chili powder. But obviously, this isn't pizza, is it? I'm nearly there, but I would like to add one more or a couple of ladles of my cooking water, and I'll give it one final mix, and this is ready. And in typical Sicilian or Calabrian tradition, some olive oil now that it's all cooked, and you can be a little bit more generous here because there's quite a bit, and one final mix and I'll taste it. Off we go, somebody has to do it. I'm keen to actually test a little bit of the broth with maybe some of the trunk, see what it's like first. You can definitely smell the chili powder. Reminds me of what's it called, nduja, the salami look from Calabria. It's got that taste which is really nice, but obviously because it's got the chili powder. But let's go for the pasta now, and a little bit of my broccoli, and it is actually quite nice. I was a little bit scared in case it was a little bit too spicy for Julie's taste, but I think the spiciness and the heat from the chili has been diluted by everything else. That's really nice. I think you could do with a little bit more salt. I didn't actually add any salt in my broccoli or cauliflower, and it would be perfect. So if you make it, let me know what you think. And as I said, you can use broccoli, you can use cauliflower, or you can use both. Buon appetito. Thank you for watching. Ciao ciao.